Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Here are some tips for using the toolbar in Finder windows. So the toolbar in the Finder is this area here at the top. It features the name of the current folder that you're looking at and also a series of different buttons. The first tip I want to show you involves that name. It seems to be just the name of the current folder. For instance, if I dive down into this folder, you could see it changes to that name there. If I go back, you could see I'm back to that name. So it tells you where you're currently located, but it's also functional. If you go up to it and if you control click it, right click it, two-finger click on the trackpad, or even use the command key and click it, you get a little menu. And the menu shows you the full path to the location. So in this case, I'm in the Documents folder, which is an iCloud drive. But if I dive down, say, into this folder here, and then I dive down into this folder, and then in this folder, and then if I control click, right click, two-finger click, or command click on the title here, you could see I get the full path up to the top. I also can use this as a menu to jump to any one of these locations. So if I want to jump up to Documents, I can simply select Documents here, and it goes all the way up to that level. Now, the toolbar itself doesn't need to look like a bunch of buttons. If you control click, right click, or two-finger click on a blank area, like right here, you'll see the context menu gives you several options. You can do icon and text, icon only, or text only. If I switch to text only, you see I get text descriptions of each of the buttons, no icons. If I switch to icon and text, I get both the icons and the text, and it takes up a little bit more space. And the default is icon only. If you're new to Mac, you may want to switch to icon and text for a while until you're familiar with the buttons, and then go to icon only to save some space. Now, you may have noticed when I move the pointer to the title here, where it shows the current location, in this case the Documents folder, after a second, a little icon appears to the left. This is called the Proxy icon. And you can use this to drag and drop the current location somewhere else. So for instance, if I were to go into this folder here, I don't have any way to say, move this folder somewhere else. Maybe I have a separate Finder window open, and I want to put this folder into another folder here. Well, I can do that by waiting for that little proxy icon to appear. Click and drag that proxy icon, and it's like I'm at a level higher and dragging that folder somewhere. So I could drag it to another window and drop it into another folder, for instance. There's actually a setting under System Settings, and if you go then to Accessibility and then to Display, right here for Show Window Title Icons, if you turn that on, you'll notice the proxy icon is always there. You don't have to hover over the title for it to appear. Now, maybe the most frequently asked question I get asked about the toolbar is about this button here. It's actually a set of 4 buttons denoting different modes of the Finder. You've got icon view, you've got list view, you've got column view, and you have gallery view. However, the question gets asked when somebody doesn't see this button but sees something else. When the window is too small and there's not enough room, that 4-mode button changes to this single button here, which gives you that menu. So if you see this, it means that you simply don't have enough horizontal space to display the 4 modes. If you expand your window more, you could see it changes automatically to be this kind of control. If you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MACMOST through Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at MACMOST.com/Patreon. Now, a button that people often misunderstand is this one here. This is the back button. And there is also a forward button. So for instance, if I were to use the back button to go to the previous folder, then the forward button becomes active and I can go forward again, just like using back and forward in a web browser. However, people often equate the back button to going up. And that's because a lot of the time it does. For instance, if I were to start here at this level and dive down into this folder here, and then down into this folder here, and then into this folder here, notice this is where I'm at. iCloud Drive, Documents, Projects, Project Alpha, Some Files. So I can use the back button to actually go back up each individual level. It seems to work the same as just going up a level. However, that's not always the case. If I were to do that again and go into here and into here and into here, and then maybe switch to a different folder and maybe another folder, and then in here go down into this folder and then jump up to this folder, then the back button will actually reverse that process. It doesn't go up to what's above this folder here. It simply goes back to the previous folder. So in other words, the back button is kind of like a history of where you've been. And in fact, you can view this history. You can't do it in the way you think by, say, control clicking on this or command clicking on this or even two-finger or right-clicking on it. This just brings up the toolbar context menu. But if you click and hold, then you get this list that's like a little history, just like a browser history, showing you everywhere you've been since you've opened this window or tab if you've got multiple tabs open. So I could jump back to any previous location, even showing the same locations more than once if that's the order where I visited them. Now, of course, I can't talk about the toolbar without mentioning that you could customize the toolbar. You may have noticed when I control clicked, right clicked, or two-finger clicked up here, not only did I have these three options, but I had customized toolbar. This is also under view, and you've got customized toolbar there. Either one takes you into this special mode. The toolbar here kind of wiggles now. You see everything's moving, indicating that you can change it. And then you've got all of these buttons here. You can drag any one of these up. So for instance, if I wanted a button in the toolbar for creating a new folder, I can add it just by dragging it. If I wanted one for deleting the current selection, I can add that as well. You could also add spaces like that or a flexible space that will adjust according to the amount of space available in the toolbar. You can play around and experiment with these. You could also drag things to be in a different order. So you can move things around if you want the more important things to be to the right or to the left and so on. There's nothing in here that you can't access through the menus. But if you're the type of user that uses your mouse or trackpad more than the keyboard, then you may want to have buttons up here that you can click. And if you ever want to reset this to be the default toolbar, then look down here at the bottom. This is one large control you can drag up and then place here in the toolbar, and it will reset everything to the default. Note, you can do some of these things even without the customized toolbar interface up. For instance, you can hold the command key down and you could drag these elements to reorder them. You can also remove them by dragging them away. Now you can also add files, folders, and apps to the toolbar. The way to do that is to use the command key. So for instance, let's say I go in here and I want this file to be easily accessible everywhere. I can drag it into the toolbar. The trick is to hold the command key down first. You can't start dragging and then hold the command key. The command key has to be held down first, and then you drag, and then you could place this in the toolbar, and you get a little icon, the default icon for whatever app it is that opens that file. Now you can click on this, and it will open that file. That's all that it does. So it's just quick access to that file. You can do the same thing by having it in the favorites in the sidebar here on the left, or placing it on the right side of the dock. There's lots of different ways to do it. The toolbar is just one more. And to get rid of any custom icon you put up here like this, just hold the command key down and drag it away. Now what's more interesting is when you put a folder up here. So I'm going to take this folder here. I'm going to hold the command key down first, then drag and put the folder up here. Now, as you can imagine, when I click this folder, it jumps right to that location, and it'll jump to it no matter where you're starting at. So that's convenient, but it also works as a drop zone. So I could take a file from anywhere, drag onto this, and this works to move the file there, wherever you're starting from. And you can also add apps here. I'm going to go to the applications folder. So I have all my applications here. And let's add, say, Pixelmator Pro here by holding the command key, dragging, and placing Pixelmator Pro here. Now it works and does two things, just like a folder does. One is I can click it and it will launch the app. The other is that even without the app running, I can drag and drop to it. So I can drag like this picture here, drop it on there, and it will launch that app and open the file. Now, one of the main things you do here with the toolbar is you use it to drag the window to reposition it. So I can click and drag the window anywhere I want. Now, normally you need to click and drag on the mouse or trackpad, but there are some options that you've got in accessibility. So go to System Settings and then Accessibility, and then go down to the motor section and pointer control, and then look for trackpad options. So under trackpad options, you've got use trackpad for dragging. If that's off, then dragging works as normal. But with on, you've got a few options here. But what people really like here, what they really use this for, is the 3-finger drag. So now dragging works as normal, just as it does with any of these modes. But you take 3 fingers in your trackpad, you could drag the window around without having to do a hard tap or tapping twice or anything. And even though this is a toolbar tip, this works for anything. So I can drag, say, this one file here with 3 fingers on the trackpad like that. So here's another tip that has to do with moving Finder windows around. Of course, you use the toolbar here to drag the window. But if you want to drag a window that's behind one like this, if you do it, it brings the window to the front. If you don't want to bring the window to the front, you just want to reposition this, you can hold the Command key down and then start dragging. And you'll see it doesn't bring the window to the front. You're using the toolbar to drag, but the Command key is telling it not to bring it to the front as well. So I hope you found these tips for using the Finder toolbar useful. Thanks for watching. Want to know about every new MACMOST video each week? Sign up for the absolutely free MACMOST email newsletter at macmost.com/newsletter.